These things, the lepers were all too closely familiar. Indeed, the lepers in biblical times, as well as keeping social distance, also had to cry out, "Unclean, unclean," and live in complete isolation outside the town. They knew what it was to be sick away from home, to suffer away from family and friends, and even to die alone, like many people in isolation hospital units today. How many of you know somebody who has died from COVID? How many of you have had COVID yourselves and has recovered? We should all remember the duty to give thanks to God for our healings and for the healing of our loved ones, and for whatever quirk of physiology that kept us out of the hospital or off a ventilator on life support. Today we hear about Jesus healing the 10 lepers. And it's not so surprising that we find Jesus ministering to lepers, because he so often went to those who were suffering, those who were outcast, those who were rejected by society. It's his mission. As we hear in the gospel, Jesus did not come for the healthy, but he came for the sick. It's not the healthy who need a doctor after all, but those who are sick. And Jesus is the ultimate physician of our souls and bodies. His mission statement, as it were, says, "The Spirit of the Lord is upon me, because he has anointed me to preach the good news to the poor. He has sent me to heal the brokenhearted, to proclaim liberty to the captives and recovery of sight to the blind, to set at liberty those who were downtrodden." So it's not surprising that Jesus fulfills his mission in reaching out to the lepers, who are perhaps the most rejected of society. But these 10 lepers that we encounter in the Gospel of Luke today were not the first lepers to be healed in the Bible. In the Old Testament, we hear about the healing of another leper at the time of the prophet Elisha. And since in all likelihood you will never hear this read in church, I'm going to read it. Take a little bit of time to read you this story. It's very interesting, theologically, for many different reasons. And like the original versions of many fairy stories, not everybody in the story has a happy ending. So this is from 2 Kings chapter 5. Naaman was the army commander of the king of Aram in Syria, and was highly esteemed and respected by his master, for through him the Lord had brought victory to Aram. But valiant as he was, this man was a leper. Now the Arameans had captured from the land of Israel in a raid a little girl, who became the servant of Naaman's wife. She said to her mistress, "If only my master would present himself to the prophet Elisha in Samaria, he would cure him of his leprosy." Naaman went and told his master, the king, "This is what the girl from the land of Israel said." And the king of Aram said, "Go, I will send a letter to the king of Israel." So Naaman set out, taking along 10 silver talents, 6,000 gold pieces, and 10 festal garments. He brought the king of Israel the letter, which read, "With this letter I am sending my servant Naaman to you, so that you may cure him of his leprosy." When he read the letter, the king of Israel tore his garments and exclaimed, "Am I a god with power over life and death, that this man should send someone for me to cure him of leprosy? Take note, you can see he is only looking to start a quarrel with me." When Elisha, the man of God, heard that the king of Israel had torn his garments, he sent word to the king, "Why have you torn your garments? Let this man come to me and find out that there is a prophet in Israel." So Naaman came with his horses and chariot and stopped at the door of Elisha's house. Elisha sent him the message, Go and wash 7 times in the Jordan, and your flesh will heal, and you will be clean." But Naaman went away angry, saying, "I thought that he would surely come out to me and stand there to call on the name of the Lord his God, and would move his hand over the place, and thus would cure the leprous spot. Are not the rivers of Damascus better than all the waters of Israel? Could I not wash in them and be cleansed?" With this he turned about in anger and left. But his servants came up and reasoned with him. "My father, if the prophet told you to do something extraordinary, would you not do it? All the more since he told you to do something simple. Go wash and be clean." So Naaman went down and plunged into the river Jordan 7 times, according to the word of the man of God. His flesh became again like the flesh of a little child, and he was clean. He returned with his whole retinue to the man of God. On his arrival, he stood before him and said, "Now I know that there is no God in all the earth except in Israel. Please accept a gift from your servant." Elisha replied, "As the Lord lives, whom I serve, I will not take it." And despite Naaman's urging, he still refused. Naaman said, "If you will not accept, please let me, your servant, have 2 mule loads of earth, for your servant will no longer make burnt offerings or sacrifices to any other god except the Lord. But may the Lord forgive your servant this: when my master enters the temple of Baal Rimmon to bow down there as he leans upon my arm, I too must bow down in the temple. When I bow down in the temple of Baal Rimmon, may the Lord please forgive your servant this." Elisha said to him, "Go in peace." Naaman had gone some distance when Gehazi, the servant of Elisha, the man of God, thought to himself, "My master was too easy on this Aramean Naaman, not accepting the gifts he brought. As the Lord lives, I will run after him and get something out of him." So Gehazi hurried along after Naaman. Seeing that someone was running after him, Naaman alighted from his chariot to wait for him. He asked, "Is everything all right?" Gehazi replied, "Yes, but my master sent me to say, 2 young men have just come to me, guild prophets from the hill country of Ephraim. Please give them a talent of silver and 2 festal garments." Naaman said, "I insist, take 2 talents of silver." And he pressed him. He tied up 2 silver talents in bags and gave them with 2 festal garments to 2 of his servants, who carried them before Gehazi. When he reached the hill, Gehazi took these things, appropriated them for his house, and sent the men on their way. He went in and stood by Elisha his master, who asked him, "Where have you been, Gehazi?" He answered, "Your servant has not gone anywhere." But Elisha said to him, Was I not present in spirit when someone got down from his chariot to wait from you? Is this a time to take money or to take garments, olive orchards or vineyards, sheep or cattle, male or female servants? The leprosy of Naaman shall cling to you and your descendants forever." And Gehazi went out, a leper with skin white as snow. How Naaman was healed of his leprosy is fascinating. Elisha hardly had anything at all to do with it. Now, why do you think it was that Naaman got healed by washing in the River Jordan? Because a few hundred years later, someone else, much more important, himself, washed, dipped, and was baptized in the Jordan, as you'll see in the icon of the theophany behind you. Jesus Christ himself dipped in the Jordan. And that's how Naaman was healed. The grace of Jesus Christ present in the Jordan, flowing back even along the river of time to heal Naaman. It didn't have much, if anything, to do with Elisha and everything to do with Jesus Christ. And it's interesting to see that time is no barrier to God. You know, sometimes Protestants accuse us of blasphemously trying to repeat the sacrifice of Calvary in the Eucharist. We're not repeating Calvary. It is Calvary, the one and the same, because time is no barrier to God. I'm told that Padre Pio was deep in prayer and someone asked him what he was praying for. And he said, I'm praying that my father may have a peaceful death. And apparently his father had died many, many years before. Time is no barrier to the healing of God. But we all need healing because the fathers of the church tell us that leprosy is really a symbol for sin. The leprosy of sin clings to us all. Spiritual leprosy, as it may be. I think that would sound really good in a southern accent. Spiritual leprosy. And when I first saw this in the fathers, I kind of wanted to roll my eyes, and it's all doom and gloom and sin. But we all have spiritual leprosy. And we're all infected with this disease. All of us, in one way or another. We're none of us better than any of the rest. And so in the gospel, the lepers cried out with Jesus in a loud voice, asking him to heal them. Let us do the same. Let us cry out with a loud voice, with an open heart to Jesus Christ, and ask him to heal our leprosy. Unlike every single one of the 10 lepers, maybe they were undeserving, maybe they were ungrateful, maybe they were unthankful, but they all got cured. Let us do the same. Now again, what did Elisha in the Old Testament tell Naaman to do to be cured? He told him to go wash in the Jordan. And we are cured of leprosy in the same way, because we have all already been washed in the River Jordan in baptism. We have already been dipped in the River Jordan, and that baptism heals our leprosy. When it came time for Jesus to heal the 10 lepers in the New Testament, he told them to go show yourselves to the priests. Now, I thought this sermon was going to be about Thanksgiving mainly, but I really feel that the message of God and of the church to us today is exactly the same. Go show yourself to the priests. If you have leprosy, and we all do, we're all affected by sin, the remedy, like Naaman's remedy, is very simple. It's not complicated. We don't have to go on pilgrimage to Jerusalem or Santiago de Compostela, which we would gladly do if we had to. The remedy is go show yourself to the priests. Because confession, as the fathers tell us over and over again, is a second baptism. It's a second dipping in the healing waters of the Jordan. And it's available anytime you want. Between now and Christmas, we have any numbers of opportunities in privacy and strictest confidence to go show ourselves to the priests. And I note that St. Anne's Parish have 24 hours of confession from noon on Tuesday the 23rd of December till noon on 24th of December, Christmas Eve. And I'm sure St. Stephen's will have a confession service as well. I just don't know when it's going to be. And I'm available to you any time that I can be, especially after liturgy. But the relief that comes from confession. I know myself how blessed it is to go and see maybe that little green light shining for you over a confessional somewhere, waiting for you. It's always available. Go show yourself to a priest. Confession is one of the things I love most about the priesthood. And I don't know if you ever saw that wonderful movie, The Mission, about the Jesuit ministry in Latin America. But there's a scene where this guy is hauling this bulk of rusty armor right up to the top of a mountain as some kind of a guilt or some kind of penance. And as he gets to the top, a priest grabs a sword, cuts this burden off him and throws it away into the ravine. And there's nothing like cutting the burdens off people in the sacrament of reconciliation. So, go show yourself to the priests and be healed of whatever your leprosy is. Glory to Jesus Christ.